Alright, big mid-season update tomorrow. New map, new weapons, a bunch of changes coming to the game. I'll link my patch note video in the description if you haven't watched it already. But tomorrow, all the talk that occurred in the patch notes better be able to be felt by the players, because what's starting to happen in this game is there's actually a lot of communication that sounds really good, but the changes that come to the game aren't as impactful as they sounded on paper. A key example of this is the audio. I believe off the top of my head they have tried to pass audio changes about 3 times so far in Battlefield 6, and tomorrow will be the 4th time they have addressed the audio. So will we finally be able to hear footsteps tomorrow? We fucking better be able to. In this video, we're going to talk about how this update better be the start of impactful changes coming to Battlefield 6 that the players can actually notice. And we're also going to talk about if we can even be excited for the next Battlefield game, which seems a little strange to be talking about now, but you'll see what I mean when we get to the second half of the video. So if you enjoy the channel, be sure to hit the like button, hit the sub button. I'll, of course, have first impressions regarding the new map out tomorrow. And if you want to see my first impressions live, swing by the stream. I could be live right now. All links are in the description. First, I want to talk about the patch and how we better be able to feel what they mentioned in the patch notes come Tuesday. I think one of the most infuriating things about Battlefield 6 is the fact that, in my opinion, they can make this game significantly better in just a few solid updates. In their communication, their focus has, for the most part, been extremely solid, and with this particular patch on Tuesday, their focus is again extremely solid, and the changes listed, particularly to do with netcode and hit registration as well as audio, are going to be amazing and a direct improvement to the game, if and only if they actually do what they say on the fucking paper. I know the majority of the community is super upset about the amount of content, the amount of maps we're receiving, the types of maps we're receiving, but the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how many maps we get if the gameplay doesn't improve from where it is right now. And I firmly believe they could drastically improve the gameplay in, again, probably about 4 or 5 patches if they address the time to kill in one patch. If they figure something out with visibility, if they update the audio potentially tomorrow and we can hear footsteps, which means we can react to audio and potentially not get caught off guard as much, that's going to change the entire way Battlefield 6 plays for the better. I said this while streaming today, it just feels like Battlefield 6 has something off one notch in every aspect of gameplay. So if they can finally start to make real ground and actually utilize Battlefield Labs effectively, I think people will be really surprised how much better this game can get in a not so long period of time. The next thing I wanted to talk about in this video is actually a point that Silk brought up in our State of Battlefield address. Let me know if I should upload that as a dedicated YouTube video. For now, I'll link it in the description. It was live streamed, so if you want to watch that, you just have to check the live section on my YouTube channel. But one of the things that Silk and I talked about is we discussed whether or not we can even be excited, or if we're allowed to be excited for the next Battlefield games at this point, regardless of how well the beta goes, the alpha goes, the marketing, because of what happened recently with Battlefield 6. The beta of Battlefield 6 was objectively really good, and it's not cope to say you had a lot of fun with it, and it was totally fair at that point and understandable if you pre-ordered the game. Because that's supposed to be the final sort of check if you want to play it. Like, you play the beta, you finally get hands-on with it, and you sit down and you ask yourself, okay, like, is this worth my money at the end of the day? And even with the most critical people surrounding Battlefield, it definitely won them over, at least partially. Fast forward to everything that's happened since the launch of Battlefield 6, and you have to wonder what the hell happened, because it just seems like EA took such an upfront approach with getting as much sales and as much money as possible, and, you know, now we're not really sure if Battlefield 6 is ever going to be the game that we thought it was going to be during the beta. And Silk's point surrounding this was actually really interesting. He said that going forward, people have to understand the state of the beta is going to be the state of the game for basically a year plus. At least with the apparent plans of Battlefield, with the yearly releases looming over us. We don't really know how much they're leaning into that internally. But ultimately, I have to agree with Silk's mindset here. And it's unfortunate, But we do have to treat the beta not only as the release of the game, but we have to treat the beta as if it's already a year old and been released. Because as we see with Battlefield 6, they're clearly not making much progress here, or at least not yet, and we are basically 6 months into the game's life cycle. Another hard pill that I think the Battlefield player base is going to have to swallow, or actually preferably reject, is the fact that Battlefield is simply going to lean way more heavily into the medium and smaller sized maps because, well, they just simply attract more of a wider audience. And this has been a very common complaint I've seen on all social media, even my channel, since the beginning of the game. Core Battlefield players essentially feel like Battlefield is losing its sense of large maps, its sandbox experience. But those same massive maps that Battlefield was famous for are also not compatible with the ideal direction EA wants to take the game. That is why, in my opinion, we see so many urban maps in Battlefield 6, and that is also why we're going to be receiving a meat grinder map in Hagenthal Base tomorrow. You kind of can't blame them to a certain extent, because when you look back at previous titles, some of the maps that have kept these games alive for so long are meat grinder maps, like Operation Locker, Operation Metro, Operation Underground, and Fort de Vaux. But even then, I feel like there was more of a balance when it comes to the variety of maps featured in Battlefield games than there is right now in Battlefield 6. But again, factoring in another element to this conversation, are big maps even fun to play if the vehicle gameplay is shit? I would say no. That's why I'm so worried they're going to be adding Galmud Railway to the game eventually. Because how is Galmud Railway ever going to be fun as infantry with the current state of Battlefield 6 infantry with laser beam gunplay, no recoil, no suppression, and the vehicle gameplay is subpar compared to previous titles? I just don't see how it's ever going to reach the level it needs to reach. Lots of moving parts to these conversations. Again, I would love to know your thoughts about all this stuff in the comments section. Be sure to swing by the stream to catch my first impressions playing Hagenthal Base. I'll be going live probably earlier than I would typically go live just to help some of the EU and other region viewers help catch the stream. All the stream links and all that are in the description. And of course, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit the sub button, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys on Hagenthal Base.